Hey everyone, welcome to the video on the thyroid. We're going to get started talking all about what I think is one of the most interesting glands. So if you can find the space to draw the thyroxine feedback loop, that's where we're going to start. So, here we go. Let's talk a little bit about the thyroid. I find the thyroid to be one of the most interesting glands that we have. It's super small, located at the front of your throat, but it controls so much. The thyroid itself actually affects every cell in your body. Our bodies go through metabolic rates, and our metabolic rates are controlled by the thyroid, and as well as how much our cells uptake oxygen. So that's a huge thing. Every cell in our body is touched by the thyroxine that is produced by the thyroid gland. I also find it really interesting, again, that the thyroid itself, not only is it touching every cell of our body, it also plays a massive role in things like pregnancy, which I find extremely interesting. Babies actually start using their thyroid gland at about 18 weeks of gestation, which is super young. If you think about something to develop so quickly, the thyroid gland is one of them. The other interesting thing I also find kind of cool about the thyroid is it really has a massive effect on your internal furnace. So like if you're feeling cold, the thyroid will turn on, we'll say. It's like the furnace, and your pituitary gland is like the lovely little thermostat. The pituitary gland turns on the thyroid and warms you up. So the thyroid has lots. So we're going to get into talking about the feedback loop so that when we talk about what happens, what goes wrong, you kind of have an idea. So here's the first feedback loop. Here is thyroxine's feedback loop. So what you're seeing here is an example of the hypothalamus, the anterior pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, and how it all happens together. So again, the hypothalamus does not just randomly just talk to the anterior pituitary. We know that there has to be some way that the hypothalamus can to send a message to the anterior pituitary. So again, it's extremely important when including your feedback loop that you remember to do the releasing hormone. Okay, so that's the thyroid releasing hormone. Now, what started this whole prompt of the hypothalamus saying, hey, we need to release some thyroid releasing hormone? In this case, I'm going to use it as we had a decrease in metabolism. Our metabolism dropped, so all of a sudden we need to produce a little bit of some thyroxine to increase that metabolic rate. It could be something as well as I'm simply cold, so my body turns on my thyroid to help warm me up. Okay, so the stimulus would be, like I said, a decrease in metabolism. The hypothalamus releases the thyroid releasing hormone to the anterior pituitary gland. The anterior pituitary gland makes and stores TSH. TSH is the thyroid stimulating hormone. It targets the thyroid gland. Okay, so again, we know that's a tropic hormone. It's not doing the job. It's targeting a gland that's going to send out more hormones. Okay. So the thyroid gland then sends out thyroxine. Now, the cool thing about thyroxine is there's two types. There's T4 and T3. And the thing is both of them need iodine to function. So iodine is an important the iodine tyrosine is an important amino acid that we can uptake and store in our thyroid, okay? But T4 and T3 are actually made in the liver, the breakdown from T4 to T3. But essentially, if we don't have iodine in our diet, if we don't eat iodine in our diet, there will be major complications with our thyroid because we can't actually produce thyroxine without it. So we're going to talk again about what happens if you don't have iodine in your diet. So here you can see we have the hypothalamus again, like I said, making that all the way down to increasing the release of thyroxine. Once thyroxine is released, we have this feedback, right? Saying, hey, keep sending more, until eventually we don't need any more because we've returned back to balance. Once we've turned back to balance, hypothalamus and the pituitary gland stop releasing the releasing hormone, stop releasing TSH, and our body is back to homeostasis. So that is thyroxine. That is specifically what the thyroid gland is doing to help increase your metabolism, keep you warm. Again, like I said, huge thing through pregnancy for people who are pregnant, okay? It does so much. Now, the thyroid gland, not only does it do this, but it also has another job in regards to something called calcitonin. So we learned about glucagon and insulin and how it keeps that balance together with our blood sugar levels. We're going to talk about another partnership called calcitonin and the parathyroid hormone and how it deals with calcium in our body. Okay. Again, this feedback loop you're seeing here isn't one we've seen before, but I'll walk you through and explain how it's no different than anything we've talked about. What you're seeing here is the homeostasis or the balance in our body. Okay. Sometimes we go out of homeostasis. We know this. Balance doesn't continue to occur. So when that happens, we will have, we're going to go up first, a rise in our calcium levels. So we may have eaten some food, okay, that had some calcium in it. So if we do that, if we have the stimulus of eating meal that brings in calcium or drinking some milk or whatever, what happens is our calcium within our blood levels rise. Now we know calcium is a key component to helping with muscle contraction. So we constantly want to keep calcium in our bloodstream, but we don't want too much. Okay. We also know calcium is good for our bones, and here's how it gets there. So if we have too much calcium in our blood, what happens is it stimulates the thyroid gland to release something called calcitonin. Calcitonin is the hormone that is then going to specifically target our bones, our small intestines, and our kidneys to ensure that we can put calcium in the right spot, okay? The best one that I like to remember, though, is the bones, because if you take the word calcitonin and say bone in, it's reminding you that calcium is going into your bones, okay? Bones and teeth specifically. Once calcitonin has done its job, again, that negative feedback loop occurs, we return to homeostasis, okay? If calcitonin needs to be secreted again, we come back over here to the thyroid gland, say, hey, release some more, and away we go. And we continue doing this all the way through, okay? Now, this again is triggered from the hypothalamus. All right, so that's the one thing on here we don't have that we normally have in our other ones. If I go to the next slide really quickly, you'll see right here the thyroid gland is triggered. Oh, I don't even have it on this one. Sorry, guys. We will be drawing these again. So when we draw them again, I'll show you the full one that I have as well. Okay, so the other side to the story is PTH, and PTH is when you have a low amount of calcium in your blood, okay? So for some reason, it's been a while since you've eaten something or anything like that. There's not enough calcium in your body. The sarcoplasmic reticulum, which hangs out around the muscle fibers, okay, needs a little bit more calcium to help with the contraction. We also know calcium plays a part in nerve impulses, right? It pushes that vesicle towards the end so acetylcholine can be released. So we know we need calcium. So what happens if we don't have enough? Well, the thyroid itself has these little tiny glands on the front called the parathyroids. And what ends up happening is when the parathyroids are activated, when there's not enough calcium, they release a hormone called PTH, the parathyroid hormone. The PTH, or parathyroid hormone, then does the opposite job of calcitonin. It takes calcium out of the bones, it reabsorbs it from the kidney, and it takes it back from the small intestines. So it targets those three areas and says, hey, I need that stuff back. I need to go place it somewhere else. Again, once we have enough calcium back into our bloodstream, our body returns to homeostasis. So again, what's missing on this slide that we normally have is the results of when the hormones are released. So that's here, okay? So you can see at the top one, calcitonin is showing you it's putting it into the bones. It's not taking it into the intestines. Not taking into the intestines. It's not It's not taking it up from the kidneys. And then the bottom one is showing you what parathyroid is doing. Okay. I've also listed the little trick I gave earlier, the calcitonin. Okay. To help you remember what calcium does. So this is the parathyroid hormone and calcitonin, as well as thyroxine. Three very important ones. What's going to happen on Monday is we are going to redraw them again, practice them. Our drawing quiz will most likely be Tuesday as we go through all the notes talking about what happens when these don't work. There will be a video again on Monday evening for a drawing quiz on the Tuesday along with these. So just be prepared. All right. Have a great weekend.